You are now listening to the Project Kuwait.
To the Project Kuwait.
To the Project Kuwait. Where we stop at nothing to bring you the right facts on health, fitness, and psychology. Featuring some of the world's most experienced professionals. So you can learn, live, and live. With your hosts, Meg, Dr.D, and Mehdi. He had a great job for, a good company who's making, about $300,000 a year, everything. And then when I went back in the summer and talked to my old friends, and I was like, well, what the hell happened? They were like, well, he broke his leg. And this is in the States. So when you break your leg, you get prescription drugs. He got addicted to those prescription drugs. And he tried everything. He couldn't kick the habit. And it just got to the point where he was fighting that demon so much. He was like, you know what? I'm going to end it on my own terms.
All the time, I have to say, you have to have a routine. Bipolar, for example, they need that routine. They need to sleep at a particular time, wake up at a particular time. They have to have something to do during their time. But like you said, there are people that are not working, or people are no longer students. They're sitting at home watching Netflix. They're not organizing their time, so they've got a lot of time on their hands.
All you're thinking about is, I need to make money to buy drugs. And you will find a way to get that money. So if you steal it, if you borrow it, if you have it, people that know you very well, they tend to forget that you're living day by day. You're not a normal person. You have mental issues. You're not 100%. You're never going to be 100%. The door is open, so you're going to have moody days. You could take wrong decisions in life. You get stressed, you get worried, you get anxious. Okay, I could just go for this little bit of euphoria. But the problem is that little bit of euphoria is never a little bit.
All this and more in today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of The Project, and today me and Dr. D are interviewing one of my old friends, great guy, awesome person, tried to kill me when we were 14 years old or 15, I don't really know, but he ran after me with a broken bottle and tried to stab me to death, which I still don't forgive you for, Ray, but I still love you, brother.
I'm sure he deserved it.
Yes, he did. He was a very spoiled boy.
Whoa, hold on. Back up for the audience here. He said I was a fat, spoiled brat before we got on. So don't try and be nice because we're recording now, all right, buddy? It's okay, dude. You can be real, man. You can be real, dude.
But I can't imagine you being spoiled. I guess by the time I knew you in the university, I didn't see you spoiled at all. I felt like you're so different from the other students, some of the other students we had.
Well,
life taught him lessons.
No, hold on. I wasn't that spoiled as a kid, dude. I mean, come on. We both had similar backgrounds. My dad and mom divorced, or there was separation, remarriage happened a lot in my life, just like you. So I wasn't really spoiled, man. I don't know what qualifies.
You were working both your parents, man.
Hey, dude. I was working them. That's the point there. That's the point.
That's called emotional intelligence.
Thank you, Dr. D. Thank you, Dr. D. But for all the listeners out there, we're bringing Ray on to discuss a really important issue that I think we all see in the Middle East, especially in the GCC, and most importantly here in Kuwait, that no one really talks about. It's probably one of the biggest silent killers, in my opinion, in our society. And just recently, a couple of weeks ago, a guy got stabbed over drugs. And addiction is a huge issue. We talked about gambling addiction in our first episode of the addiction series, so to speak. So now it's on to addiction of drugs. Most importantly, the most popular drug, I think now, or that has been in the last 10, 15 years, which is heroin here in our society. And Ray is an ex-recovering addict. I tip my cap to you, man. You've done amazing over the last 5-6 years. I've known him for a very long time.
13.
13 years?
13 years.
13 years?
Yes.
Okay.
And counting, and life, hopefully.
Inshallah. Hopefully. But it's really good to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on. I know how hard it is to share a story like this. And, again, dude, I tip my cap to you. What you've done is amazing. And unfortunately, our society views addiction as a behavioral problem, not a mental or a health issue, in my opinion. Right, Dr. D? I think we try to say it's a behavioral thing and, it's not a disease. I mean, we don't call it a disease here.
Right. Although it's recognized in DSM-5, the diagnostic manual, it is an addiction. It does take a toll on you physically, emotionally, biologically. And, just like last semester, I was teaching a course on addiction, and And a lot of my students were really surprised about how much our brain really changes with all these chemicals. So it's no longer becomes like a choice, or, you can just stop it anytime. And so it's a big problem. And I do salute individuals that really try to work so hard into being able to, be able to like recover from this. And like I said, it's like a lot of emotional, biological, and people don't really understand it. And I'm so happy we're doing this because I think people need awareness and they need to understand the depth of this problem. So, Ray, I really thank you for sharing your story.
No problem. I have lots of stories to share.
The best one was already shared. You
I know, right?
Because he was fat and spoiled. I will never forget these words. So thank you.
The truth.
Making my day.
hey, it's all right. We're shifting the conversation away from me here, putting the spotlight on Ray over here.
Back to Ray.
I know, right? So, dude, we grew up together. We went to a lot of the same parties together. Dr. D, yes, I used to party when I was younger. Ray knows me when I was younger. I partied quite a bit. We got into a lot of fights together and against each other and so forth. So, I mean, take out the partying portion of the normal teenage years. When did things start to change for you mentally, emotionally, and physically that led you to harder drugs throughout? That's something I've never been able to really comprehend or understand.
Look, it's from the teenage years. When you were younger, you're influenced. I mean, I was influenced by rock music and hip hop, and I don't know, Biggie and the 10 Crack Commandments, and how with rock music and the history of all the rock stars and how they partied hard and they played hard and all of that. Now I believe it's like an evolution of events that leads into a certain situation. You get to try things, and when you try something, you try something else and something else, and it leads to another thing, and then it gets out of control. Like, be more specific with the question. I think it's very vague. Be more specific, and I'll be able to highlight more, like talk more.
Maybe what we started with first.
Yes, we could start with that. Like, I always had interest in narcotics in general. And I always thought that it was nice to have a nice buzz and feel a certain feeling and that. Now, when I started away from alcohol, and if I was smoking anything, smoking weed or whatever, to me, that wasn't an addiction because it was just weed, and I was drinking and I was young. But then when I started off, my very first strong narcotic was codeine. I did codeine for maybe every day for a year and a half or a year, something like that.
Was that here in Kuwait or was that outside of Kuwait?
Outside of Kuwait. We don't need to talk about which country, but outside of Kuwait.
Yeah, that was my question. Yeah, outside of Kuwait. Yeah. Okay.
Codeine, and I loved it. And it's my favorite. And the reason I moved on to different things is because I couldn't get it.
Right.
Okay. So don't get me wrong. I've been sober for quite a time now, since 2007, 13 years, something like that. It is 13 years. May 2007.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It wasn't an easy journey, but I loved the codeine. I loved the happy feeling that it gave me. It was something that I looked forward to every day. And when I started, I didn't understand the withdrawals. It wasn't on my radar yet. Okay.
Right.
So I did codeine for a while. We'll talk very fast about my drug history, and then we could get into details if you guys want.
Sure,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yes.
So I did codeine for like a year and a half, and then I moved on to pills. It was just pharmaceuticals. I took 2 different kinds, and then one of them again I couldn't get, so I started replacing it with tramadols, and then it was 2 kinds of pills. One I used to take tramadol, and it was like let's say 250 milligrams a day for a period of time. And then the pills that I used before the tramadol, like the tramadol, they were like something for the lungs, to open your lungs. And then that ran out, so it was just tramadols. And I love tramadols because they lasted for 2 days because I used to get high. And then the next day I still had the buzz. So I was like, wow, this is fantastic, And then I ran out of tramadols, and I started using, Rehabnol and
Rehypnol, that's big here.
Yeah.
That's really
yes,
big in Kuwait.
yes,
That's very big
yeah,
here. And tramadol is too, actually.
Tramadol is too, yeah,
yeah,
both of those drugs.
yeah. And then I couldn't score tramadol, so it moved into heroin. So I did some heroin. I did quite a lot. I never injected. I always smoked it. And I think that gave me some sort of an advantage to be able to stop. And so I did that until I went to rehab 3 times because of heroin. The first 2 times were just detox, and then I stayed for 3 months after that sober, but then I relapsed. But the final one, the third time, I just took a decision. It was a tough decision. So that's so it's pills, heroin, more pills. The codeine was coughing syrup. It was a syrup. It's still my favorite until today. If I ever find anything that has codeine in it, I get very excited. But of course, I don't take it. I'm like, whoa, where was this? But yeah.
So, Ray, when you started with codeine, when did you realize that codeine was something that you needed? Or maybe my question is that what relief were you looking for that codeine gave you at the beginning?
I loved the whole experience. So I loved the rush of scoring, even though I didn't really worry because I had friends that I trusted and I knew that they go and if anything goes wrong, it will be handled. But then I used to go and have my dose and it used to hit me. And I was able to be in a place that had beautiful scenery. There was a nice lake, the sunlight on the lake. I was tripping. I used to smoke with it. So it gave like smoking and any like to me hash or weed is always like an additive. It's your ketchup or mustard or whatever. It's something that just spices up the high.
I've never heard of it like that, dude. That is the first time I heard of someone say weed is a condiment.
It is, dude. It just made the high better.
It's an additive. It's true. It's very true. Yeah.
So I enjoyed the whole experience. I loved that. And I didn't have any worries. I was just doing it to enjoy myself. And I didn't think that there were serious consequences to it.
Right. So you're saying that there is a poly mixture of different things that gave you that buzz that you were looking for. And to be honest, if you think about it, people thinking that, well, I just drink cough syrup, that has codeine, it can't be that bad. It's the same thing as some people tell me that, I just smoke weed is not a big thing, or, I just drink, it's not a big thing. And, so when did you realize that really it is a big thing? And no, this is not a good thing.
Heroin.
Okay.
With heroin, I started realizing it's a problem because I started realizing that, okay, there's time and the time needs to be filled up with certain activities that I enjoy. What do I enjoy? I enjoy getting high, so I'm not going to fill up my time with anything else. So once I started realizing it was a problem is that when I ran out of heroin, and then I started getting immediate withdrawals. So that was like, okay, this is serious. Do I want to stop? I don't want to stop. No, I could just, I'll just wait for the next score. So whatever I used to take just to calm me down, maybe like at some point, if I'd rather go through withdrawals with heroin and not take tramadols because I had no interest in tramadols at that point. I was more interested in the smack.
Here's my question. What were the withdrawals like? I mean, you hear about the stories, you can read about it in books, but what's it like in real life, dude? Just so the listeners understand, especially if listeners have family members who are dealing with drugs, so that they could kind of relate and understand a little bit better of how important it is to get people the help that they need.
Look, it gets divided into totally separate points. You have the physical and the mental. All right. Now, the physical is you get hit almost immediately within a few hours with a really bad flu. You're really sick. You have stomach pain. You have cramps. You have diarrhea. You have a runny nose. You feel like shit. You can't move. You have a really bad flu. Okay. On top of that, this is what's really, really important. It's your mental state. Now, it is a disease because why is it a disease? And I agree with that because there's a door in your head, in your brain that is shut. Once you start experimenting with drugs, you start opening this door little by little. And as you go more into drugs, the door opens. And if you start with cocaine or crack or heroin or pills, the door opens wide open. Okay, so you're getting a certain feeling. Until today, the door in my head is not shut. It's just barely shut because the door could open at any time. I don't like watching movies that have people shooting or they're craving. I don't watch that. And I'm 13 years. I cannot.
Because
It
it's
annoys
triggers
me.
for you.
Yes. So
Triggers, yeah.
the physical part lasts for 4 or 5 days.
Right.
Okay, and that's when you go to detox. So they give you vitamins, they give you stuff for your stomach, they give you stuff for the flu. They're just calming you down for 4 or 5 days. And my doctor used to knock me out for 3 days. I used to just wake up to whatever, go to the bathroom, have a drink, and then I'm back to sleep for like 3 days. And then the fourth, fifth, sixth day, you start feeling your legs, like leg muscles and certain muscles in your body. You're like, wow, you feel like, whoa, I was in like a coma. And then you start doing that. But the hard part is the mental part because it's so hard. You're fucking with the devil. It's the devil. That door being opened is a gateway to the devil. And it is whatever narcotic it is, if it's a class A drug, something that is highly addictive. Why do you get addicted? Because your brain wants it. It gives you a euphoria and you're looking for that euphoria. So it triggers your happiness. You're unhappy. You're miserable as fuck. You hate life. You don't want anything. Now you hear stories, people going to the extreme. People steal, people kill, people do this, that, the next. It's because they need the money to buy the drug. And it's as simple as that. So psychologically, all you're thinking about is, I need to make money. I need money to buy drugs. And that's it. And you will find a way. You will find a way to get that money. So if you steal it, if you borrow it, if you have it, some kids are rich kids. They have the money with them. They never went through a withdrawal symptom because they don't have cash.
Now, I appreciate you saying that it is the brain, because that euphoria, that sense of like happiness that you don't know otherwise without this class A drugs or without this sense of, it's very interesting that, you don't know happiness without this type of excitement.
Yeah.
So, and that's exactly, the scary part of it is that to look for that level of happiness requires that you can't live life a normal life, because now you know it at a different extent, at a different level.
Yes. Yeah. You always have to be vigilant. You have to be cautious with the people that you're around. You try not to associate yourself with people that, even if they're smoking up. I don't have friends that smoke. Look, I do have the odd drink, but once I got back to Kuwait when I was sober, I spent 3 months in rehab, 3.5, 4 months in rehab. When I got back to Kuwait, every weekend I went drinking. And I remember I did that for like a couple of months. So like, let's say 8 weekends. I remember drinking to the extent of me. I used to tell a friend of mine, I used to tell him that I'm drinking so much because I feel my brain wants to reach that euphoria of that narcotic, which is not right because I'm not supposed to do that. So I just stopped. I no longer drink to the extent of, could have a good glass of wine. I could I like whiskey. I have a little bit of nice whiskey, but I don't drink more than a glass or two. I don't reach something that gives me a euphoria because then it triggers other things, if that makes sense. You have to be cautious with who you're around with, and that's all you. Look, the parents or your family members or whatever, if they never experienced addiction, they will never understand. They think you're being selfish and you don't care, and you're weak, and you're relapsing, and you think you do. It's not. It's very hard. It's extremely hard for you to sit there and wake up and you're in a bad mood, and you know that you could go and get high. You know that that will put you in an immediate euphoria. So you saying no, not today, and just moving on with your day is not as easy as no, not today. It's a few words, but it's not as easy as that.
Because they don't understand the memory that your brain has for that feeling, right? They're thinking that you can just stop, you don't need to hang out with these friends. They don't understand it's the battle between you and yourself. They don't
Yeah.
understand that my brain remembers. That's why you're saying, like, if I watch these movies, if I hang out with friends that used to do it or are doing it, it only triggers my brain to remember that feeling,
Yeah.
which then I want to fulfill it.
Nobody in the world will help you or guide you or allow you to stop but yourself. If you don't decide inside of you, your soul, your inner person, taking that decision saying, I'm not going to do it, not today, nobody's going to stop you. And they think that people not taking that decision is weakness, and it's not, because it's very hard. It's not an easy thing. Mehdi had a question. Mehdi?
Yeah, and this goes back to, I mean, Dr. D, like, we go way back, and Ray knows most of our friends are either dead, in jail, or still addicted to something, or recovering addicts. Our generation went through hell from 97 to about 2001, especially here in Kuwait. I think that's when things really kind of blew up. Now, we have mutual friends that have battled the same demons. One of our friends, we both know, we both tried to talk to, we both tried to help once. How important is that emotional support that you're talking about when your family think that you're weak? But how important is that emotional support? Because one thing can flip that switch, and you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Dude, family doesn't matter. Nobody matters.
But
It doesn't matter.
He flipped. He had everything going really good for a long period of time, for about 3 years. And he just, one day, they found a needle in his arm. He was asleep in the bathroom with a needle in his arm, and he'd gone back. And my personal 2 cents on it is that his environment drove him back to finding that euphoria, as you would say it is. And I think
people get miserable, dude. A lot of people are unhappy, especially people that are recovering addicts. I'm not the happiest person on the planet. I'm not happy until today. I went through spiritual journeys looking for happiness. Now with the stress of life and the stress of the work and family, this is very stressful, and nobody puts in consideration. People that know you very well, they tend to forget that you're living day by day. You're not a normal person. You have mental issues. You're not 100%. You're never going to be 100%. The door is open. So you're going to have moody days. You could take wrong decisions in life. You get stressed. You get worried. You get anxious. You face issues. Again, you say, okay, I'm looking for happiness. I'm very miserable. It's okay. I could just go for this little bit of euphoria. Just a little bit of euphoria. But the problem is that little bit of euphoria is never a little bit, because people are greedy.
And because your brain has been opened already, that door that you talked about, because it had opened as far as it could open. So when you are trying to reach that happiness, the brain will reopen again to as much as
and it's funny that your brain will give you solutions. If you really want to go and do something that you're not supposed to do, you will do it. It's incredible. Like, I never did well at school because I had no interest, but if I don't have money, I'll come up with money. I'll think of ways of how to strategize. How will I do what? Who am I going to speak to? What am I going to do in 3 days? In 3 days, okay. And that, everything adds up, and I get the money so I could score.
Right. So you're talking about that manipulative behavior that you have taught yourself in order for you to fulfill that euphoric, that memory.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of research that really talks about the memory being the strongest. But Ray, I don't know if that applies to you, but it just seems like a lot of people I work with, or people that have had addiction. Of course, I'm not an expert in, recovering addict, or I'm not an addiction treated psychologist, but a lot of stories always has something to do with their history and their background, or a lot of stressors that have come to them that they felt like they were vulnerable. Do you feel like some people are just more vulnerable to be an addict versus other people?
I don't think it's vulnerability. I think it's you being put in a situation where you decide to try something out, or you don't decide to try it out. Because a lot of people that I used to hang out with and do things with, they're from good homes. They're spoiled kids. I mean, I was like, why are they doing drugs?
Hold on. Don't you think, and this is another question. I'm not a psychologist, and here's my question, though. Do you think they're running away from something? I know a lot of my friends, or the people that we knew growing up, and a lot of the people that I've met that were drug addicts, per se, or turned to drugs, were always running away from something at home. It was, whether it was divorced parents, whether it was, a deceased parent, or whether it was a sibling that fought with them. Or, for instance, for me, when my brother died, I took a bad turn. I turned to alcohol when I was in the United States. I drank a lot, and I realized 3 days into it, I was like, whoa, I never drink, and I'm drinking now. I was running away from my problems. And I knew a couple of other friends who ran away from their home problems through drugs, whether it's their parents kicking them out or anything. They were always kind of running away from something, and then it would be drinking, and then drinking would go to pills, And then the pills, sure enough, would turn into, scoring smack, so to speak.
You're saying
I,
coping
I
mechanism, you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you think really hard, you'll find that from the list of people that you believe have issues, other kids are just doing for the fun of it. So from the same group of friends, if you think about it and you go through each one, some people just do it for fun. It's not necessary that they come from a broken home or they have problems or whatever. It's just they're doing it for pure entertainment. They're doing it because they want to do it.
So that means that they've started
I
because
did
they
it to
were...
piss my dad off, to be honest,
Okay.
and for fun. So I did it for both reasons.
Well, so you did want it to piss off your dad. So it means that you wanted to
Yeah.
get back at him for something. And it could be that you're right. I think a lot of them try it out. And then those that get addicted to it is because they like the feeling. But
I
it could
had
also be a
I had
coping
friends
mechanism.
that they're from maybe I don't know the details of their family life in full details, but they were from a regular household. Both parents are there. They had successful lives. They're at school. They're doing well. They just do it because why not? I'll do it.
Or maybe that they were under a lot of pressure. I mean, just because
Maybe.
a family looks like they're decent and they're, middle class or upper class, or maybe that they are, even being spoiled is a problem. I don't think that's an advantage. When kids are spoiled, it means they don't have the right coping mechanism. They haven't learned how to deal with stress. They haven't learned how to accept the word no, for example. So maybe that there were some things that they themselves were running away from, that they felt
Yeah.
like this drug was fulfilling the need that they needed. If it's stimulation.
Everybody has a story, but it's not necessarily the family. The person themselves, that they're looking for whatever way out. They're looking to be spaced out. They're looking to be dazed and confused. They're looking for whatever they're looking for.
That's a great movie, by the way, Dazed and Confused.
Yeah,
That's an
it is,
awesome
right?
movie. Dr. D, did you ever watch Dazed and Confused?
I think
She did.
so.
You don't
No,
watch movies.
I
You
don't
don't even
watch
watch
anything.
TV. That's a great movie.
I don't have time. Now I've been watching a lot of politics. I think I need to go to Netflix
Oh
instead
my
of
God.
YouTube,
Oh,
to be
that is too much.
honest. I need some stimulation. But I had a question. Once your family knew that you had addiction, how did they take the news? How did they find out?
My very first time when they started finding out that I was doing stuff is when I was doing heroin. Even see when I say it, I try to be discreet about the word heroin. I don't say it out loud and proud. I didn't have money to buy anything, So and I met a family member that was very near and dear to my heart. I told her, listen, I have a problem and I need to go through a detox process and I need your help. So she was very supportive and she paid the bill for the doctor's bill. I detoxed for the first time. And that was the first time, like I detoxed for 5 to 10 days. So they make sure you don't end up doing more narcotics. They put a chip, a little medical chip, like they cut an inch into your skin and they just stick something inside and it goes with the blood. And whatever you smoke, you don't get the high for a period of time. So you have a 3-month period, the 6-month period, and a 12-month period. Now, I always went for the 3-month period because I didn't know what the ingredients were. I didn't know what was going on. So I said, let me just put the smallest thing into my body and see what happens. And already I'm putting a lot of poison. So it's okay. So I detoxed for 10 days. They put that little thing. So I wasn't able to get high for 3 months. And then the 3 months was over and I started relapsing again.
Did you try to get high during the 3 months?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. So they were supportive. My family were supportive. They're like, okay, what's the solution? The solution is that I need to go to rehab. Okay, so let's take you to rehab so you could sober up and then we'll talk. So the first time went like that. The second time it was my father. He was informed and I let a family member tell him that I needed to go and they had a chat about it. The third time was I had a big problem. So everybody knew.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Ray, I have a question for you, man.
Yeah.
Just before we get into a little bit more on the family side, how much did you lose from this? Like, what did you lose during that black period? Like, when one of our mutual friends, he just went through detox again, came out of it, and he said he was out of the coverage area for 3 years. So he lost everything during those 3 years. And he told me that. Now, what did you lose during that time that you were out of the coverage area or in the black zone, so to speak? did you lose your home? Did you lose your money? Did you lose your car? You know what I mean? Like, how much of everything did you lose? Did you wind up on the street?
Material stuff,
Whether
or
it's material
Or
or
emotional. What about emotional stuff?
yeah, like Mark
okay,
came on the show. He said he knew it was the worst part when he was panhandling in a park in Cape Cod with no shoes on his feet. That's when he went to the hospital and said, "I'm either going to kill myself or you guys are going to fix me." How much did you lose out of it?
look, I'm going with certain philosophy. All right, I have no regrets. I had the time of my life. I loved it. It's something that I love to do, or I loved to previously do. I don't have any issues. I caused a lot of problems, problems for myself, problems for others. I might have hurt people, but I have no regrets. I mean, I got into a lot of trouble, legalities and respect of people that I've known very well, my colleagues at school, but I'm very selfish. I didn't care. I loved what I did until today. If anybody asks me, oh, if that topic is brought up, my previous addiction, the topic is brought up, I say no regrets, dude. I have no regrets.
Well,
And I
here,
got in trouble at the end. It was a big problem. Like I could tell you details of it, but they kept me in rehab for like 3 to 4 months, I guess. So it was an issue for me. I caused my family problems. I caused myself a lot of. Everybody just looked at me like this guy is gone. He's nothing. He's a nobody. He's going to be like this, and addicts never recover, and he'll probably relapse. And everybody stereotyped, and everybody looked at me in a certain way. Even when they were speaking to me after I was allowed to start to speaking to people, they were speaking to me in a way like they felt sorry for me. But I took the decision to stop. And thankfully, I didn't end up dead or in jail. Like, I think if they took my freedom, I would have had regrets if I lost my limbs, or if I lost something that was me, other than my prestige, or who am I in the community and all of that. Of course, that was all gone. But I had a hell of a party and I loved it. But would I go and do it again? I don't know. I don't think so. I go for a jog and my body hurts. I wouldn't do that again now. Even when I was younger, like I stopped 25 years old, I think so, like 13 years ago. Yeah, I was maybe 25, 26. At that time, when I came back home to Kuwait, I could have done whatever I wanted to do. I could have relapsed.
I remember seeing you. It was 3 days after you had gotten back, and you called me, and you were like, "Look, you're the only person that I'm talking to right now. I'm not talking to anyone else." And you told me the whole story of everything that happened. And I looked at you, and I was like, "Do you think you can do it here?" And he was like, "Look, I had to get out of my backyard." He was like, "Where I was, that was my backyard." I was like, "Okay, but here's just as bad." Like, in Kuwait is, for the listeners outside of
It's a
Kuwait,
lot stronger here, dude. You're living. It's right next to Afghanistan, bro.
Yeah.
It's like only like it's. Yeah,
that's right.
I
Yeah.
tried the stuff here, and it's very strong. It's a
And
lot
it's very
stronger from where
accessible. If you have money, it's very accessible. Even if you don't have
even
money.
if you don't have money.
There are
And
so
it's
many
not
things you can
expensive.
get here. And prescription drugs is number one usage here.
If you read the book Mr. Nice, okay, it was by one of the world's
Yes.
biggest drug dealers. He names our port as the third largest port for drug trafficking in the world.
Yeah.
And that is a fact in the book. And this guy was arrested for it, and which you could see. And I mean, it's so difficult. And this is a question for both of you, Dr. D and you, Ray. Do you think that families in general, and maybe, in the United States and in Europe also, do you think they understand it when somebody is an addict and they actually understand how to help them? Versus, I know here in Kuwait, in our community, if they hear their kid's an addict, they'll go and they'll beat the crap out of them before they take them to rehab, or they'll call the cops.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, that's not the solution. Like, it's not the solution to help the person that is struggling with an addiction. So do you think there's really a big lapse in the education side of drugs, people, and problems in our community? And I'm speaking in the GCC and the Middle East in general.
Well, I'll let Ray answer it in sense of like his experience. So that's why I was saying, like, when your family found out, did they even understand what that means? And even to this day, do you get people that know about your history? Do they label you? Do they discriminate against you? Do they?
I'm very cautious with who I discuss and open this subject with, because I worked my ass off to be who I am today, and I wouldn't jeopardize someone thinking that I'm a crackhead or whatever, because I'm not. Look, I always look like this. I have black hairs and my eyes are red. Sober or not, I look like this.
I can vouch for that. He's looked like that since he's been an ugly bastard since 14.
Yes.
And,
It's just
well,
I get skinnier. I get a little
yeah.
bit more skinnier and that, but I always look like that. So I already look all fucked up. So I wouldn't let anyone judge me for that. But in the Arab world, I think that the parents, the shock makes them live in denial for a while, and they don't know what to do. And they think it's an easy, just stop. What do you mean stop?
Yeah.
You can't stop. I need to get that stuff out of my body. Okay, we'll get it out of your body. Then stop. But it's not that easy because they have mental issues. You're too weak. You cannot fight it. You have to be strong. It has nothing to do with strength. It has to do with, is the addict convinced that it's time for him to give up what he's doing? And if it is time, then the guidance that he needs, like, I don't believe in the 12-step program. I
I was
think
going to
that,
say, are you following the 12-step program or you don't do it? Because there
no.
is an Arabic version of it, the
Yeah,
12-step.
and there are,
where they
and I
do-
know where they hang out, and I know people that went there, and
yeah.
it works for certain people, but not everybody. Some people are looking for direct guidance, and they need
Structure.
the community, and they need the steps, and but these people are already. How can I don't want to disrespect anybody, and I mean that, and I don't mean it at all. But I think the people that are following the 12-step program are already lost pre-narcotics. They don't know what is going on with their life. They can't plan for themselves. So that's why a 12-step program is their guide. Believe in a higher power, do this, do that, say grace, pray, so on and so forth. But it's just a guide. I knew friends that attended it a lot, and I attended it once, and I thought, I was like, oh, these guys are lost completely. I'm lost. They didn't even know. Like, I remember I was at the time when I had the 3 months. So I went to a meeting to see what it was about, and it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, what are these guys talking about? What are they doing? It doesn't make sense. You either want to stop or you don't want to stop. You want to stop with a bunch of people around you, and you want to talk about your feelings and all that. And it could make some people feel better, but it didn't work for me. I'm a very discreet person. I don't like to talk about how I felt. Maybe it works for certain people again, but it didn't work for me. And I don't think that if someone has values, if they have their own values and they know what they want next, they don't need that program. But if they don't have, or they have very little values, or their values are not clear and they don't know what they want to do next, they need a program to follow, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I also think that the 12-step program has helped a lot of people get structure. They can get
Definitely.
that. I mean, it's very difficult that when you have these urges or the memory or triggers or,
I
a
don't
family
think
problem
sponsor, no,
happen.
sorry. I
If
don't
you have
think
a,
the sponsor program is a good idea.
well, that's what 12-step program is, right?
Yeah, you have a spot.
I mean,
Yes.
you don't have to have a spa. But what I'm saying is that it gives a venue for someone to have, if their family are not very supportive and they think like other families where like they don't want to talk about it, they want to just shove it under the carpet, then you've got this group where you can at least connect to people that are experiencing similar things. They have the similar feelings, and they can get you through these moments when you need to call someone and be able to get support from someone instead of having someone at the house or your friends judging you. Or like you said, there are people that don't talk about their drug past history because they're worried about being labeled. And this, 12-step program is really meant for that type of a support. I mean, we all know that people that go through rehab at least should have some connection with a therapist or someone that can be able to give you some support when you need it.
I had a therapist for a while. I was on antidepressants for a while as well.
Mm.
But I always thought the sponsorship program, if you are in need to speak to your sponsor and your sponsor doesn't pick up the phone for any reason, you'll use that as an excuse to relapse. Because
Yeah.
you're relying on someone else's energy to help you get out of something where you need to build your own energy to be able to focus well enough to not take that step. It's a millisecond of a decision. It's, am I going to do it or am I not going to do it? Am I going to go and score? Am I going to go and buy or I'm not going to go and buy? It's as simple as that. Okay.
Mm.
So you have the urge, you're angry, and you're thinking in the back of your head, I want to buy. and you're calling your sponsor and your sponsor is not answering, you're pissed off now at your sponsor because he's not answering. This is becoming more realistic now. So you'll just, and I think a lot of people relapse while they're on the program is because even if it's the amount of years, I'm almost going into 15 years, 13 years, I could never be a sponsor. Not because I wouldn't pick up the phone, but I could guide someone. I could have a chat with someone. I could encourage someone. I could give them some sort of idea. Any person that has the door open is too fucked up to be anybody's sponsor. This is my opinion as well. They cannot, because they're already, even it's 20 years, 30 years, people and they become egotistic about it. Yeah, you know, I've been sober for 25 years. Good for you, dude. But you have issues. You still fight. You get up in the morning. You're still fighting your day because it's like that.
What you're saying, it is so true. It's the sponsorship and the ability to have that door still be open and to make a decision. You're very true. And someone that wants to relapse.
Actually,
and then we've had people that relapse in 12-step and then they have to repeat it. I'm saying that it could serve. Now for you, maybe because your therapist was enough for you to give you that support. Now people should have a therapist. They should try this 12-step to see if it works for them. They really need to have some support system, whatever it is that that support system looks like. But you're right. You made it made sense to me that if I'm going to call my sponsor, I'm already making a decision. Should I relapse? He doesn't answer. I can use that as an excuse. You're right. And that probably a lot of people have relapsed because of that.
I have something related to that. It happened in Kuwait. I have a friend that he's been sober for like almost a year now. Okay. But at one point he gave me a call and he wasn't hallucinating, but he wasn't normal. Okay. So we're discussing and I'm like telling him, okay, so yeah, you're in the program, call your sponsor. But he's like, no, my sponsor, don't call him. I was like, who's your sponsor? Do I know your sponsor? I was just wondering. And it turned out that his sponsor is someone that we know as a group of people from Maddie's generation and my generation. I was like, wow, he's your sponsor. You guys, it's crazy. You guys used to do drugs together. How is he your sponsor? So I'm like, okay, never mind. Let's just ignore that. So after I hung up with my friend, I called the sponsor. And I'm like, hey, dude, X called me and he's not okay. And you need to help him out. You need to give him a call. You need to see where he is and you need to go to him. No, just leave him. It's okay. Let him be. And if he doesn't want to listen, let him relapse. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Dude, you're supposed to go and help him out. You can't just leave him. You decided to be into this the stupid brotherhood of yours and you want to hold hands and talk about your feelings and get all emotional about shit. When someone is in a bad situation, he's your brother. You're supposed to go and help him out. You can't say it's this is that. He was obviously too busy to pay attention and he's sponsoring someone and he's not qualified to be a sponsor. How am I? Again, a door is open. That makes you, even though it's pretty fucked up for me to say this, but it makes you really wise. The door is open. I think it's egotistic. I'm sorry to say this, but I think my mental capacity, because that door was open, it gives me a competitive advantage in front of the person that never had that door open. Because I saw things that he's never seen in his life. So you cannot have a conversation with someone or rely on someone that also has that door open, because at any millisecond, that person could relapse.
No, and I think you're making a good point, is the responsibility these sponsors have. You're right. I mean, what has helped you these 13 years? What can you tell our listeners that they can, maybe use? Or
I'd say use a lot with their family members. I mean, I think there are a lot of listeners that I know personally who have had family members dealing with addiction, and they're just like, oh, we've tried the circle, we've tried the interventions, we've tried the this, we've tried the that. And I mean, you, Ray, you know who I'm talking about that we've tried to intervene with over the last, 10 years, so to speak, multiple times.
Yeah.
And that, I don't want to say weakness in personality, but that characteristic where that they just can't fight it. They just can't beat it. And I get what Ray's saying, where he just decided, okay, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. If I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. Some people are just like that. It's just like when I quit smoking. It was like, okay, I'm just going to quit. That's it. No patch, no nothing.
See, I could never quit smoking, even though I quit heroin.
That's interesting.
And I sit there and I think, and I say, man, I quit fucking heroin. I know if I put my mind into it, I will stop smoking. But it gives me a little bit of happiness. Why should I?
The only pleasure in life you have now, right?
It's legal. And,
Yeah.
okay, so it's just going to kill me faster, slower, whatever. I'm like, all right, let me just I'll enjoy it while I can. Until I can't, I'm not allowed to smoke anymore. Like if I'm instructed by a physician that you are not allowed to smoke anymore, so all right, then that's the time for me to stop. But now I'm not going to do that. But look, I have a system, okay, that I created in my mind. I realized that a day has a certain amount of hours, okay? Now, these hours, you need to fill them up. If you
That's
don't
right.
fill up these hours and you're sitting and you let your mind allow you, your mind allows you or controls you and it drifts away because you have time is on your side or it's not on your side. So if you have the time and you're not using that time wisely, you will never stop. If you're a crackhead, you had a program, dude. You woke up in the morning, you either had or you didn't have. If you have for the next 3 days, it's fine. You wake up on the fourth day, you wake up, you don't have. So you need to start thinking of how you're going to get, and that's your day. So you go, you have the money, you call the dealer, you go, you buy it, you come back, you have the stuff for the next 3 4 days, and then so on. So you have a program. And what is it when you're high? You're just sitting there, you're all fucked up, you're in euphoria, so you don't want to move, you're just sitting there, you're enjoying your time. So time is passing by. All right.
Mm.
Now when you're awake, you have time. What are you going to do with this time? You can't sit there, you'll get bored because your mind is active. So you need to start filling out segments and parts of the day to do things. So you could exhaust yourself. I worked 2 jobs. When I got back, 2 jobs. So my day started at whatever. I got up at 7 a.m. My day ended at 11 p.m.
Well,
No time. And I did that for like 3 years.
Do you think a lot of people turn to drugs here because there's boredom in Kuwait
Yeah.
and in the GCC? Do you think for a lot of Arabs, there's just this level of boredom that we hit?
There's no boredom in Kuwait or in the GCC. Everybody says, oh, it's not boring because you have a million things that you could do. What do you want to do? In the summers, you could go to the beach. You could swim. You could play volleyball. You could join one of these fancy gyms where there's sea activities. You could go canoeing. You could go sailing. There are so many things that you could do. All right. In the wintertime, you could go camping. You could go off-roading. You could go whatever. So there's always something to do. It's just what gives you your euphoria. What is the thing that will excite you? Some people go to the gym. I find the gym incredibly boring. I can't go to the gym. I get bored. It's not stimulating enough for me. So I run outdoors. I think it makes more sense to me because outdoors I'm running, I'm breathing fresh air. It excites me more than running on a treadmill indoors, for example, even though Maddie thinks that it's not a great sport because he's
What, running? Running? No,
Running.
dude, running. Dude, man, look, to each their own. And I say it all the time. Everybody's different. You said it yourself. People quit for different reasons. People start for different reasons. Different programs work for different people, and everybody's different.
Yes.
No matter how you slice it or dice it,
Right.
every single person. I like to compete. That's why I do CrossFit.
Yeah.
When CrossFit doesn't serve its purpose in my life anymore, I'm just going to drop it and go to the next thing where I can fulfill that need to compete in some type of physical activity. That's me. You could say it's my addiction, so to speak. That's personally for me.
It is. It is. How does your day go, Yamari? You when you go to work from whatever 9 to 5. You're back. You go to have something to eat. You go to the gym for a couple of hours. You're back. You read a book. Your day is done. So you filled up the time.
Pretty much,
That's
yeah.
right.
You understand? But
Yes.
the thing that addicts or recovering addicts or people that want to stop is, what are they going to do with their time once they're done? They will be very bored because they were living a life in the fast lane. They're talking to drug dealers. They're trying to make some money. They're trying to keep their job if they're working. Like I was a college student. I wouldn't imagine being high at work. Fuck. No way, man. How could you go and I didn't get that. Like people that have careers and they're getting high, that's also a different story. I have no experience in that. I don't know how they cope. They probably lost because you cannot focus. You have time of sitting down. If your day is filled, then the time is gone. Because they're at work, they want to be high. But that means that they're unhappy with what they're doing. It's not stimulating their mind.
You are making an excellent point. And I think that's something that people really need to understand, that time is very, very important. And when you've got a lot of time on your hand, when we had a lot of time on our hand during this, COVID, or when we were sitting at home, we were all eating more. More people have gained weight, for example. I mean, that's just a simple example
Yeah.
of how whenever there's a shift in my routine and now I can't get up, I can't go to work, and I'm sitting. Yes, I was working a lot, but still, like, I'm so bored. Refrigerator's easier. Potatoes sound to be great. Things. So, as what you're saying is that it's a small scale of it, but if you don't fill up, and I tell my clients all the time, like even with panic attacks or people that have anxiety or people have depression all the time. I have to say, you have to have a routine. Bipolar, for example, they need that routine. They need to sleep at a particular time, wake up at a particular time. They have to have something to do during their time. But like you said, there are people that are not working, or people are not no longer students. They're sitting at home watching Netflix. They're not organizing their time. So they've got a lot of time on their hand. So they're relapsed with
A
depression. They
mistake
will
parents
relapse.
do.
Yes.
A mistake that parents do is, you're not going anywhere, stay here. You're sitting at home with us. Dude, you're
Yeah.
talking to a guy that used to go out in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, to buy heroin. You want him to sit with his mother to watch sitcoms on TV? Are you guys nuts? Of
Yeah.
course he's going to hate his life, and he's going to hate you. And while he's sitting there, he's thinking of how he's going to buy his next score.
Mm-hmm.
I want to
Very
throw
true.
something into the people that work and they are addicts. They call them functional addicts. All right.
Yeah, they
And
are functioning.
Okay.
Not for very long, though,
not for
Maddie.
very long. And I'll tell you a little story.
Yeah.
One of my childhood friends, actually, in the United States, and this broke my heart when I found out he was the funniest kid that I ever grew up with. He was just a complete jokester. And I'm talking, I saw him every summer. We hung out. He came over to my grandmother's house, swam in the pool. We were really good friends. There were 3, 4 of us that always were together throughout our early teenage years. Fast forward to, I think, 2 years ago, I got a message saying, hey, so-and-so is dead. And I was like, what do you mean he's dead? And they were like, he blew his brains out. And I was like, what are you talking about? He had a great job for, a good company who's making, about $300,000 a year, everything. And then when I went back in the summer and talked to my old friends, and I was like, well, what the hell happened? They were like, well, he broke his leg. And this is in the States. So when you break your leg, you get prescription drugs. He got addicted to those prescription drugs, and he tried everything. He couldn't kick the habit. And it just got to the point where he was fighting that demon so much. He was like, you know what? I'm going to end it on my own terms. And he took his own life. And it gives me chills. He took his own life. They found him in a baseball field because he loved baseball. And, he was, with gun in hand. And it was just, to get to that extent, he must have been in a really, really dark place. And I think addicts go one of 3 ways. Either they go to jail for a very long time, they die, or they become successful in their career and in their life, overcome that addiction, overcome the obstacles and adversities. And with that, with a really good support network that, people tend to forget about a lot of the times. I know my buddy back in the States, his support network, it wasn't there for him at all. And, he was left to deal with it. And everyone thought he was okay because he was still going to work and he was still bringing in his money.
Yeah.
He owned his own home, everything, very successful, but he was a functioning addict.
Mehdi, I think because we have these stereotypes that addicts are usually people that don't have money, or they're not working, or they're pretty much homeless.
Yeah.
Actually, if you think about it, most users of cocaine and heroin are usually upper class. They're people that are working. They're making a lot of money. They're in corporations. They're in investment businesses. So they're not stupid guys that are not educated. But because we have these labels, so when we see someone that is educated, goes to school, they are very successful in their career, we would never imagine that they are using drugs or that they are on cocaine because they're functioning. And those are really people that are, to me, I feel like they're a lot more vulnerable. They've got a certain standard. They've got people looking up at them, and they don't even admit that they've got an addiction because they're worried about losing their job, losing their career, having people stereotype them. So yeah, it's true.
What you said, Maddie, is people go to a dark place, and I totally relate to that. I remember when I didn't have enough to buy, and I couldn't, like, say my dealer disappeared, okay, and I couldn't get anything, and I started withdrawing, and that's the worst. You go to a very, very dark place. And or if you start, it's a habit. So sometimes you get annoyed with that habit. You don't like the habit anymore, but unfortunately you're stuck.
Yeah.
And you're no longer enjoying the high.
Right. And I think when the
Yeah,
addiction takes control of you.
yeah. I didn't like that because I like to be in control of things. I don't like things being me not being in control. And then you had to take the decision to ask for help, and you wouldn't do that because you're too in love with the high. A few days later you'll be like, all right, fuck it, let me just get out of it. And then it's just, and you go into another day and another scenario or another story or whatever.
Trying to get in control again, trying to think that you're going to be in control again, but you're already out of control, and you've been out of control for a while. But my last question is, what support do we have in Kuwait? Because I only know about the addiction center that we have. Do we have really psychologists that are good? I get this question all the time, and it's not my specialty. Yes, I teach a class, and that's about it. Maybe I'll see someone at the clinic. I do see a lot that have like kind of an addiction with weed, but I don't see a lot of people that are anything more of like class A, like you said. I don't see them. I have to refer them. But the only place I know is the addiction center. Is there other places here that people can go for when they need treatment? That people that can't afford to go outside of, Kuwait. A lot of people can't.
I don't think there's anywhere in the Middle East in general that is there to help addicts properly. Look again, if the person doesn't want to change himself or herself,
when they're ready, they have to be ready. Right.
Once they're ready, they're ready. They will not need anybody. They will not, because they will get into the flow of regular life. So at the beginning, yes, they will need support. Now they have their family, because look, doctors will just prescribe stuff for you, like stuff that will make you sleep, antidepressants to play around with your mind. I don't know if they want to go and sit there and talk to certain doctors about how they feel and how is their day. Maybe that is unavailable. I never went to any doctors after my recovery, after I decided that, because I see them as hope for me to get anything. I could get antidepressants. If maybe I take a few more and it'll give me a buzz. Maybe I could ask them, oh yeah, I'm depressed, but I'm getting this back pain. Maybe you could give me something for my back pain, and they'll write stuff for you. Over here, they'd write stuff like it's candy, and that's a problem because it's not right.
Yeah, you're right. I think what you're saying, which is true for any treatment, even when people that come to see me, look, if you're ready to come and get, to work through your depression or your obstacles or your issues or your stress, you have to be ready. There are people that come to psychotherapy and they're like, oh, psychotherapy doesn't work. Well, it's not that it didn't work. It's that you weren't ready for it. And it's the same thing as, people are ready to make a change in their life. People that go to rehab, they have to be ready for rehab. They have to ready to make a life change. And what you're saying is that it is a life change. Yes.
I have something that I must add. I think psychedelic herbs are very good for addicts or recovering addicts.
Like ayahuasca, I would assume.
Yeah. Ayahuasca. Yeah. And we hear so much about it.
I know, right?
I went to 4 ceremonies.
Oh, you have, huh?
Yeah. And I think it's very good. At the point that I didn't go for drugs or whatever, I read about it and I knew that it would somehow help me out, and it did. And I think that if people are going through emotional problems or they have mental situations in their heads that they cannot do that, the plant or that family of plants or stuff like that is very beneficial, more than pharmaceutical drugs and family interfering and all of that, because it's you're the person that's fighting the darkness. Nobody's fighting the darkness. You're fighting the devil every day. You wake up in the morning, you feel like crap. You're who? I'm going to call Mary and tell him, hey Mary, I feel like crap. He's going to sit there and talk to me for a few hours. No, he doesn't have time for my ugly face.
No, he does. He's very empathic and caring.
It's funny. There's actually a lot of research right now into psychedelics and using that to help people in recovery, whether it's PTSD, post-traumatic stress, or if it's in recovery from addiction. And, it's given under the supervision of doctors, and it's still being experimented in the United States. And I think they're leading the way. Silicon Valley is actually leading the way in all of this, which is pretty cool because they're finding different uses for, things that we thought were taboo, so to speak, many years ago, or not even too long ago.
Maddie, a mutual friend of ours, okay, is basing her research on that the plant ayahuasca is based on two things: criminals that commit criminal acts or addicts. If they go through certain supervised ayahuasca sessions, that's the research, huh? Their pineal gland recovers, it makes them better people, and they will be able to be better people in society in general. And that research, if it continues, it's in Europe. If it continues, I think it will be a great changer for a lot of people that are suffering with addiction.
Yeah, I mean, and I think to end it, like, we are not doctors on the show. Everybody's different. I would say definitely seek medical opinions on anything that we discuss and psychological opinions. You can contact Dr. D on that. And for physical fitness opinions, you can contact me. And if you want to go running, you could just give Ray a call, and he might take you on a jog with him.
I'm like Ray. I think jogging is much better. It's boring to be on a treadmill, to be honest.
I hate treadmills. I absolutely hate treadmills. You can't put me on a treadmill.
I think out, especially now with our weather being so nice, it's nice. Ray, I'm coming with you next time.
Anytime. I'm always up for a run.
Ray, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing your story. I love you, man. And you know I'm always in your corner no matter what. And
I know that.
You know, dude, I'll beat your ass right now. You know, it's not 14 years ago anymore. I'm a little bit bigger.
And he's not fat or spoiled.
Yeah. No, none of that. But you still don't scare me, Maddie. You still don't scare me. You got a good heart, bro. I love you.
I love you, buddy. I love you. Thanks, man.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also find us on Instagram at The Project Kuwait. Thank you, and join us next time.